Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
To Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm April Martinez.
And I am Isani Keatano.
And good morning, Belize. Thank you so much for being with us this Monday morning. How are you, Isani?
Man, I'm good. I'm feeling great. It's the 27th day of February in the year of our Lord 2023. I feel as if though the month of February has just gone by in a breeze.
Snap. It was done. Like I think that's usually the case. I don't know about you, but January always feels like it drags on, and then February comes. 28 days, nothing, and then straight into March.
Well, I don't know how you feel, but the past week has been pretty windy.
I loved it.
9th of March, this Rutamaya, this whole, and the month is not even over with yet, but it just gives you that feel as if though we're ready for March, or we're already in March.
I feel like, I know that this is usually that time where we're getting all of the high-end tourists that are coming in, and I couldn't think of a better time to come to Belize this particular time of the year, this February, March, coming into the month of April, because it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just windy, it's nice. I sat by the coast, by the seawall on Saturday, and I just took it all in. It was just so nice. Nothing, no bad weather, no too bad heat. It was just really, really nice. I enjoyed it. It's that time of the year. I'm mellowing it out for the remaining month of February. But yeah, it's done. The 28th is tomorrow.
There are a lot of things that we can look forward to in the month of March.
Yes.
Right? We round out the fiscal year, so anyone that deals with finances and that sort of stuff, this is a time of year where you want to start winding down your financials and stuff like that. But as I mentioned, though, March is Rutamaya.
Yes.
What do we call it now?
The National Benefactors Day.
Yes. So we've done away with the Baron Bliss
National Heroes and Benefactors Day. But it's very I was thinking about it in the context of paperwork and so forth, and what we actually have documented. And is it fair to just say National Heroes and Benefactors Day when technically we've only nationalized 2 heroes in our entire Belizean history, and that's George Price and Philip Goulson?
Well, that's a conversation of a whole different kind, but I won't delve into that.
It was just something I was thinking about.
I'll simply say that I appreciate the long weekend for what it is.
Even if it's not on the day. So that's something that also has become Belizean culture, where yes, we've done the Rutamaya in celebration of 9th of March, but this year we're doing it the first weekend of March, this weekend coming, and it doesn't necessarily fall in the holiday, so we're getting the Monday.
Look, this is how I look at it, right? You have to be able to make accommodations in some instances for the business community, and then you have to make accommodations for the public.
Yes.
Right? And so not being able to commemorate the day on the date itself is fine by me, as long as we still do get that holiday. Right?
And I think it does make sense in the aspect of doing La Rutamaya. If you have to go back and work on Monday, you miss an entire day of the race for those
and the
that
truth
follow
of the matter is, from the inception, from the onset of this canoe race, this national canoe race, it has always commenced on a Friday and concluded on a Monday.
Yes.
So we don't have it any other day in between.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, and it's usually the first weekend in the month of March. So I think by virtue of that alone, I wouldn't want to see it any other way in the calendar.
yeah, fair enough. But I mean, whatever your thoughts are, I am pretty sure that, however, even if you don't watch the race, you are going to be in celebration for the long weekend. But as we carry on with our show for this lovely Monday morning, we are getting into our Eye on the News.
So there's a lot that has taken place over the past 7 days since last I sat on this couch with you. What I want to begin with first of all is to discuss a little bit of politics, and then we could kind of review some of the stories from last week. So yesterday, the 26th of February, the United Democratic Party held a convention in the Kaya West constituency, where a successor for the long-standing area rep, who I must point out was defeated in the November 2020 elections. A successor has been voted in, right? So Miguel Guerra now succeeds Erwin Contreras as the UDP standard bearer in this case for the Kaya West constituency. I think what is interesting about that particular electoral district is the fact that prior to November 2020, Kaya West was a UDP stronghold.
Yes.
Erwin Contreras held it down for all those many terms and all those many years that he was in elected office. And as it stands, Kaya West is being represented by Jorge Melin Espat, who does not have a ministerial portfolio. He's an area representative.
Yes.
And I don't know at this point whether that comes as a disadvantage or work is still being able to get done, notwithstanding the fact that he's not assigned a ministerial portfolio. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in the next few years.
Yeah.
We're at the midpoint of the Briceño administration, and a lot can happen going forward. But we do know that Miguel Guerra defeated Charles Cortez yesterday by a margin of over 500 votes.
Yeah.
We're looking at 835 for Miguel Guerra and 313 for Charles Cortez.
Wow.
Right? And so this follows on the heels of the previous convention that was held in Belmopan, where John Saldivar bested Emil Torres and retired Colonel George Lovell.
Yeah.
Right? So it's part of, I guess, the UDP trying to get its ducks in a row, so to speak.
Yes.
Right?
And you see it again here in Kaya West. Not as many came out to vote as those in Belmopan, but still over 1,000 persons came out to cast their votes.
There were 1,137 votes that were counted yesterday.
Yeah. So it does goes to show that they are trying, of course, clearly they have their people that still support the party. Clearly the people that they represent are trying to ensure that there is change within the party, that they get their persons that they want to represent them. So honestly, it's a good look for the opposition, this second convention in a row.
Yeah. So we'll discuss more of the UDP stuff later on in the show.
Yes.
We'll leave that for then. That's just the first point that I wanted to touch on, seeing as though it just took place yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
And so we move on from that, and then we go back to a few major developments that took place over the course of the week. Nothing new, but the fact that these are ongoing conversations, they remain at the forefront of the public discourse.
Yes.
So we're looking at one, the issue with the teachers and the public officers and the senior managers in government who are advocating rather strongly for the return of their increments, right? So that's one thing we'll touch on. And then the other has to do with the bus situation as well. I wouldn't want to belabor that, but you know, the bus conversation is a live one.
Yes.
So we go back now to the idea of the increments. So on Friday, we were able to speak with the president of the National Trade Union Congress of Belize, right? And he echoed and reiterated the position by the joint unions negotiating team and of course the teachers as well. Earlier in the week, I believe it was last Tuesday, we spoke with Prime Minister Briceño, where in that conversation, he said, okay, fine. If we are to reinstate the whole increment system or what have you, then it's high time that we also begin to discuss pension reform. And so it's almost as if though you can't have one without the other. And the president of the NTUCB was on record Friday to say, well, look, it'll only be somewhere between $18 to $20 million to be able to reinstate the increments. But increments are exactly what they are. They're annual increases. And so part of the argument here is that it should be based on merit and not necessarily an automatic thing, because there are some who deserve
their increment,
based on the quality of service and work that they've put in throughout the course of the 12-month cycle, versus others who are just coasting and expect to get the same. It's almost as if though you're doing group work. If you're looking at a classroom setting, right? You're doing group work. And so there you could identify upfront the actual students who have been doing their best to put forward a good or solid project versus the ones who are just in it because I'll get the same grade as you, right? So it should be based on a particular merit system. At least this is the argument that is being put forward by the government, as opposed to simply just giving these officers a raise every year.
When we had the folks from the joint unions, you know, they clearly stated that there is a procedure, there is a form, there is a performance objectives form and so forth, and once they've been evaluated based on your performance, you know, you get an increment. But my question would now be, all right, you want your increments back, are they reinstated or are they given, right? And I think that the president of the Mr. President Flowers, had said to me that that's not a matter of discussion, because you do your evaluation and then you get your increment. However, who will be doing the evaluation once the government decides to unfreeze these increments? So will the government now take its time, go through all of these performance forms one by one to see who deserves their increment and who doesn't?
Department by department.
Exactly, right? So once that occurs, how will the increments be distributed? When? By the fact that they've been frozen for what, 2 years now? Will they be given for the 2 years, or are they just going to be given for the 1 year? How is it going to roll out?
But here's the thing though, here's the thing. The unions are clamoring for an April 1st reinstatement, which may or may not be realistic. It may very well be, considering the fact that the government is at this point putting together its budget. So that's one thing. But on the other end, the president of the NTUCB is also saying, well, look, you guys are insistent upon the idea that pension reform should happen within a six-week period too. And he's saying that it's not realistic because there's a lot of consultation that needs to take place. This is an issue that has to be well thought out. It has to be well rounded in the kind of participation from other people or stakeholders, if I may. So it's not something that could happen within a short period of time, a month and a half. So it'll be interesting to see how both of these issues are addressed. The issue of the increment and of course the issue of the pension reform.
I think that for the longest time when we were talking about what we want from our government and our leaders, we tend to believe that they have it right in the pocket and they just don't want to give way. And I'm just saying that is the way that we think that these decisions are made, right? And I say that because for the longest we've been asking for things like pension reform. For the longest we've been asking for things like transportation reform. You know, we want these things as a community, as a society. But then when the ball gets rolling and certain things are not put in place to our liking, we no longer see the bigger picture. And I talk about this in the aspect of, for example, transportation reform. I am an avid public transportation commuter. I take the public transportation. And so for me personally, the whole back and forth between the bus association and the government is frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I understand what I want from the transportation reform as a commuter. But it doesn't seem that any of the two parties are talking about the things that I want as a commuter.
Well, I like your segue, which would have been the third topic, right? And no, that's fine, that's fine. I will say this. Last Monday when I attended a press conference held by the Belize Bus Association here in Belize City, after listening intently for the period of time that the members of the head table spoke, as a reporter during the Q&A session, the first observation that I was able to point out, and it may have rubbed them somewhat the wrong way, but as far as I'm concerned, the truth is the truth, right? I got into reporting in 2009, somewhere thereabout. And I can recall, as a young up-and-coming reporter at that time, one of my first stories had to do with the issue of public transportation in Belize with these very same players. This is the juxtaposition that I make. Since then to now, the conditions of the buses have only gotten worse. That's over 15 years ago. No new buses have been put on the road. As a matter of fact, and this is again now from a public point of view. The fact that it's arguable that no new bus has been put on the road by these bus operators, and perhaps the standard, I'll use that word very loosely, that we get all of these third-hand old buses being brought in, right? If that is the benchmark that they operate by, well, that is what we've been getting for well over 15 years. Because from 2009, when I first did my story on buses, to 2023, all there is in between is the politics of the industry. And not necessarily the improvement of the services being offered to commuters. Right? And I think we shouldn't be lost on that. I think that's the primary issue, is the fact that you ought to be able to provide certain services that are of a certain standard, or of a certain quality for people who are your regulars, so to speak.
I agree, and I think that it kind of goes both ways with the public does need you as the public transportation system, and it's very sad that because you know the public needs you, they're going to put up with whatever it is that you put out there, because we don't have another choice. And then here comes another bus operator giving you a different choice, and you're upset about it. And that is where I don't understand those particular lines, because I know it's all about business. It's all about who makes the most money for that day. I get it. That's your livelihood. Fine. But at the end of the day, if your entire society is telling you we want better, do better. You know, and that goes for both parties. That goes for the association and the...
Well, here's an interesting counter argument, one that has also been put on the table. It's almost as if though the transport department is saying, well, look, these are new guidelines that you must adhere to within a specific period.
Right.
But then the argument now becomes, well, what about your ability to provide the infrastructure? So I was speaking to a friend of mine on Friday. He's been in the public transportation industry for donkey's years, if I could use that expression, right? And he was saying, well, okay, so they want me to introduce better buses, a better fleet of buses into the industry for my business. But then when I park at Novella's terminal, you look around and see, okay.
It's not to par either.
Precisely. Same in Belmopan and elsewhere. So you're expecting all of this from me, but then what are you doing to facilitate from your end? So that's, I mean...
At the end of the day, and this is something that I always talk about when you're doing a union versus government, you know, issue or situation. It's all of the people that get hurt in the background. It's everybody else that isn't a part of the argument that gets hurt, because as I understand, and this is something that I try my best to portray when we're having these discussions. I'm not talking about it from an opinion of a person looking out. I'm talking about it as a person that has taken a bus, that has been a part of a union, that has, you know, all of these experiences that I understand come with several parties. The only thing that I've not done is run for government. But at the end of the day, when you are making a commitment to serve your people, how is it that you forget the people? And that is where I don't understand certain arguments in any kind of situation like this. And I just, all I can say is I hope that they come to a conclusion soon. I understand that they held off on a press release on Friday.
Part of the agreement coming out of a meeting that was held last week is the fact that the government should have issued a press release providing a formal update as to the outcome of those discussions. Well, that was released, I believe, on Friday, or there was some discussion about it on Friday in terms of the president of the BBA going back to his membership based on certain points that were not necessarily agreed to in the first instance. So he has to take it back to his membership for them to be able to either iron that out or come to one accord in terms of those particular points. I think that's where we are. But I guess the good thing out of it is that the threat of industrial action has been removed from the table.
So it's on a halt for now, yes.
Yeah, so we can safely say that you could continue riding the bus without fear of one day encountering a strike and you can't get to where you're going. Right?
I always used to say that if you, as the public, and I stand by this, I believe in silent resistance in the aspect of, you know what if one day we all just decide not to? What would happen then? You know, you don't ride the public transportation, you don't get to your place of work, you just stop. Everybody, all 400 and odd persons in this country just know. Do you know the amount of power that is in a community? I'm not making a statement. I'm just saying that is to make an entire day stop. And you see what COVID did in halting the world for an entire day. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of far out there. But
that's how I do my resistance, honey.
Yeah. But I mean, look, the bus operators are also clamoring for certain benefits, if I could use it that way, right? Some of the same exemptions and some of the same benefits, again, that are being afforded to one player should be equally spread across the industry for anyone that is in public transportation. And I guess that the Minister of Transportation has also accepted that, look, these things need to be standard across the board. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I agree. And I did ask the minister when we had him on last week, I said, don't you think that the time is a little bit, it's too tight for everybody to get their affairs in order? You're coming out of COVID, you know, everybody's trying to get back to a certain standard of normalcy. Maybe perhaps they need more time. But I also understand that there is a political backing as well. You want to be able to get to a certain standard.
Well, there's a mandate in place, right?
Yes.
And with every administration, it comes in with specific objectives that need to be achieved, in this case within a 5-year term. And so we're already at the halfway point. So then the argument can legitimately be, if not now, then when? Right? If not now, then when? And if you look at the timeline, as I mentioned, and I use this loosely, from 2009 to 2023, we haven't really been able to address this thing meaningfully in terms of improving the state of the industry. So if not now, then when?
And I think that both parties agree, because they both have said that these issues have been happening for many years.
And I was just using that small little timeline for my own purpose, but the issue has been there well before
long
then.
before that, yeah. So we will be keeping up to date with this particular story.
So these are stories that aren't going to go away in a hurry.
No.
They're live discussions. Every day there's something new to report on. So certainly you will be seeing these stories and more later today in our 6 p.m. newscast. You can catch it live on 5, or you can stream our content on Facebook or YouTube. That does it for the Eye on the News.
As we move into our show for this morning, we will have that weather update for you shortly from our friends at the Belize Met Service. You know, again, wonderful weather is sunny. It's been very, very windy. I hope that it stays that way. It was kind of drizzling a little bit this morning when I was driving. Oh, it's okay.
We could live with that.
You need the plants.
Yeah,
need it.
Precisely.
But I hope that we continue to have this wonderful weather for the past few days. It's just been really, really mellow. But as we wait for our friends from the Met Service to give us that update, we are slowly moving into our hotter months. March is going to be a little bit consistent, I hope. But once we get into April and May, time for take out your sunscreen and wear your hat and put on an umbrella when you walk outside, because it's going to get hot. But
it usually has two types of weather conditions, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's either raining or it's
I don't know. I think that in the midst of it all, I recall we had a conversation, and it was storming in Belmopan with the sun bright and shining. So I wasn't sure what kind of weather that was, but I think that's been my experience here in Belize for the past few years. Sorry. We're just waiting for our friends from the Met Service to come on. Do we have the audio recording for you now?
Good morning. Mainly fair weather will prevail in a moderate easterly airflow. The 24-hour forecast is for skies to be sunny with a few cloudy spells today and clear to partly cloudy tonight. Mainly fair weather will prevail and showers will be isolated. High temperatures today will peak near 86 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 89 inland and 78 in the hills. Low temperatures tonight will range from 79 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 71 inland and 66 in the hills. Winds over the open sea will blow from the east and southeast at 10 to 20 knots, and sea conditions will be moderate. Low tide will occur at 8:48 this morning, followed by high tide at 5 minutes after 3 this afternoon. The sun rises at 12 minutes after 6 this morning and will set at 2 minutes to 6 this evening. The moon will rise at 11:35 this morning and will set at 1:13 tomorrow morning. The outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for mainly fair weather to prevail with little or no rain. In this morning's fire risk forecast, the risk for brush or forest fires will be moderate to high during the next 24 to 48 hours. That ends this morning's weather report and forecast from the National Meteorological Service.
And thank you to our forecaster, Angelia Guy, for that weather update. And moving on into our show, we hope to motivate you this morning with our eye-opener taken from dailyom.com. Our lives belong to us, and so do our decisions. Just because an idea or a way of doing things is popular doesn't mean it's right for everyone. However, part of the way that something becomes popular is that many of us don't take the time to determine what's right for us. We simply do what most of the people we know are doing. In this way, our decisions about life are made by default, which means they aren't what we call conscious decisions. There may be many other options available, but we don't always take the time to explore them. This may be the result of feeling overwhelmed or pressured by family, peers, and humanity at large to do things their way, the way things have always been done. Regardless of the cause, it is important that as often as we can, we decide for ourselves what to do with our lives, than just drift along on the current of popular opinion. You know, I think we were just talking about this, where we do the things the way they are because that's just how they've always been done. And I always disagree with that kind of behavior, because if you continue to do that, there is no progress and there is no change. And I think that individually we don't realize how powerful those decisions can be when we just decide to do them for ourselves and for our own.
Well, here's the thing. It is easy to march with the crowd, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess.
It is difficult to go against the grain. But I think in all of this, you have to do what makes you feel good about yourself. You have to do what you believe or know to be right by you. I think once we're able to follow that individually, then one, we'd be able to find ourselves. That's the first thing. Two, we would be content with the decisions that we make. But here's the thing. When you're in high school, for instance, it's easy to fall into peer pressure because everyone is doing the same thing. You're looking for guidance, or you're looking for something that says, oh, I am normal too. So it's easy to fall into that. But raging against the machine, so to speak, is often more challenging. But that is how you're able to determine the people who are either free thinkers, the people who are, you know, eccentric, but in a good way, right? Because they stand out from the herd, so to speak. And it's far and few that you find young men and women who are able to set themselves apart from the beginning, that they are not going to do what everybody man is doing, right? You more often find that later on in our years, because we have experience under our belt, we decide, okay, you know what? Let them do that. I'll do me. I'll do something different that makes me feel good.
I think life just also makes you exhausted as well. But no, I definitely agree with you, and I think that those persons that do stand out, those eccentric persons, they're the ones that become our innovators. They're the ones that decide to take certain things to another level for the betterment of society. So if you are that person and you stand out, continue to stand out. Trust me, it's for the best. But as we move on into our show for this morning, we have two very, very important conversations, Isane, lined up. And we have been talking about politics. We have particularly been focusing on the United Democratic Party, as we always discuss that we need a strong opposition to, you know, hold our governing party accountable. And so today we will be joined by the Honorable Tracy Panton, the area representative of Albert, who will be talking to us about the issue and the discussions of Honorable Patrick Faber and perhaps his Phoenix rising into the UDP once again. And also, for me personally, I want to talk to her about women in leadership, women in politics, and so forth. So we have that discussion with Tracy Panton this morning.
Our second conversation will be with Senator Janelle Chanona as she discusses the Escazú Agreement. I think a lot of people would want to know what that is. So we'll get a full explanation of everything when she joins us on set later for the second segment of the show.
Awesome. And we're going to, of course, get into a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button where he selects the evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
Come dock up at San Pedro on February 25th for the first ever Banquet Boat Show. Deals, drinks, prizes, and of course, Honda.
Then I'll be right there. Let me come check you, my baby. No time, no. And my dog is on probation. Another 5 years. And bring girls to his location. No time, no.
Send me the location. This year about vacations. Flight catching.
Banquet. We represent quality.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Special offer alert! Trade in your old device and active SIM and get a Samsung A04e for as low as $85, plus 50% off your Share One plan for the first 3 months. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. Now that's love. So this month, get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And welcome back. We have been joined in studio this morning by the area representative for the Albert Division, none other than Tracy Panton.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here.
All right.
It's been a while, Isani.
There's a lot that we can begin to discuss in terms of the politics of the United Democratic Party and where the organization is at present. And of course, your role as a woman in leadership. So I would want for us to begin first of all by looking at where the party is at present. We mentioned earlier that there's a round of conventions taking place to elect standard bearers for the upcoming, still a ways away, but for the next general elections. But the party is also in a position where it's also rebuilding and trying to find its footing. Let's begin there.
I think rebuilding is a good place to start. for the last 2 years or so, all of the party's intros, if you want, have been very much in the public domain, which in my view is unfortunate. We suffered a devastating loss in the last general elections. And since then we have been trying to heal as an organization and rebuild. It has taken us some time indeed to get our bearings, if you will, but I think we're well on our way there now. There is, as you mentioned, a series of conventions that are being held throughout the 31 constituencies where we will have representation, some endorsement conventions, some elected or contested conventions. At the end of this process, which should be sometime in June, we then need to get ready for the municipal elections before we gear up for the general elections.
The state of the party is rather dynamic nonetheless, where you have all of these developments taking place. You have all of these power plays as well. I say that in the context of what transpired in Belmopan recently, where notwithstanding the designation, John Saldivar has still proven popular in his constituency that he's run for all these many years, and he was able to come out victorious over the other two candidates who contested that seat for standard bearer. So he's back now as a standard bearer for the UDP, perhaps against all other odds that were before him previously. Let's talk about that in the context of the ongoing rebuilding of the party.
Well, John Saldivar was afforded due process in the party. He was able to make his case, if you will, to the membership of the National Party Council, which is the highest decision-making body outside of the National Convention. He was allowed, based on the vote at the National Party Council, to run for his constituency as a candidate to become standard bearer, as you mentioned, and he was victorious. The people of Belmopan, the UDP supporters in Belmopan, spoke. They spoke loudly, they spoke clearly on their choice of who they wish to represent them in Belmopan. That is the democratic process, and I think it was certainly on display in Belmopan. There were two other candidates, which says to me that there's still a lot of interest in people representing the United Democratic Party at the national level.
We're talking about your position as Tracy Panton, as probably the only woman right now in the House, seated in the opposition, seated in the House, that represents herself in the House, that speaks out to the public and to the media. Where do you see the vision of the party headed?
Well, let me correct that there are two women representatives in the National Assembly for the United Democratic Party, myself and the Honorable Sister B, Denise Barrow. We are rebuilding. It's a dynamic process. It's a mass political party, as you know, so there are varying opinions and views, and the idea is how do we best build consensus around the way forward. It is the collective wisdom of the delegates, the decision makers of the United Democratic Party that should, and I hopefully will prevail. We should be having another leadership convention coming up soon, and then we will take it from there in terms of how the party charts a way forward. We're also in the process, as you may have heard, of looking at the constitution of the party. I believe the constitution is of paramount importance. I have always promoted and advocated for the constitution to be followed. It has guided the UDP over a period of 49 years of our existence. There is room for improvement, always room for improvement, but it is time that we respect and follow the constitution of the party so we can chart a way forward.
When you're talking about decision making and so forth, and we're headed in a conversation of different views, opposing views within your party. You, as Tracy Panton, you had run for leadership of the party at some point. And notwithstanding the losses and so forth, what would you have done differently had you gotten that seat? What would you have done differently to provide a little bit of stability after the general election?
There was a need, in my view, for the party to visit each constituency, to work with the constituency leaders and the community leaders in those constituencies, and to develop a strategic plan on how we're going to work with each particular constituency and then bring those pieces to be part of the whole. As you know, it has been fluid, it has been dynamic, we've had a lot of changes, and that distracted, I think, from the work we ought to have been doing in the various constituencies to rebuild from the base. Rebuild from a place of integrity, certainly rebuild from a place of inclusion, with as many supporters of the party who were willing to make a contribution at that time.
I asked the question because the controversy surrounding the leadership that you have now is very much in the public eye view. So now that we have John Saldivar back as the standard bearer, where do you see certain persons coming together to perhaps make amends in the party?
The party has to make amends. We cannot be divided. You know, we have to find ways to unite and to build consensus and to have the consensus prevail. There can't be any unilateral decision making for the United Democratic Party. We are a mass political party, and the views of our supporters, the view of our decision makers, the views of our delegates, the views of our officials, appointed or elected, are important in the entire process. So I believe the way we're moving forward is that there will be a coming together of the party. We must, if we are to be successful in our bid for the municipal and the general elections.
But I'm glad that you're mentioning that at some point there has to be some kind of meaningful reunification.
Indeed.
Right? But Patrick Faber, he has essentially been frozen out of the party in his constituency. And very recently, the Caucus for Change came forward with a release to suggest, okay, it's time that we seriously consider perhaps bringing him back into the fold, notwithstanding the fact that Ian Jones had been basically endorsed as his successor in Collett.
I did not support the decision to remove Patrick Faber from the United Democratic Party. The constitution of the party was not followed when he was not afforded due process. His committee was not consulted. So in my view, Patrick Faber should not be out of the party. Things transpired the way they did, and I am certainly an advocate for Patrick to be brought back into the party. He is the longest serving UDP parliamentarian. He is the most winning UDP parliamentarian. He has a lot of experience. He has a lot to add to the political and national discourse in this country. And I really think that decision was not thought through properly at the time. And so Mr. Jones also, I think, has a lot to offer the party. But his appointment and endorsement as the area rep for Collett was unconstitutional.
It flies in the face of an initial agreement where sitting or elected area reps would not have been challenged or what have you going forward, correct?
So the decision was that the 5 elected area reps, if they wanted to contest their seats for the upcoming general election would just have to indicate to the Secretariat and to the party chairman that of our interest to contest the next general election. So certainly it flied in the face of that decision.
But the difference between the issues that surrounded, for example, John Saldivar, they were all alleged accusations. There really were no hard evidences to prove his guilt, whereas with Patrick Faber, there are. So how do you see him coming back into the party as a stable leader and somebody that can represent the UDP for all its philosophies and the mandates that it stands for?
I certainly think he can. The United Democratic Party has established that it's a party of second chances. We've done so certainly for the party leader. We've done so for John Saldivar. Why are we not prepared to do it for Patrick Faber? He decided, let's remember the history, he volunteered to step down as leader of the opposition so that he could work on himself, so that he can really do some soul searching and get the kind of support he admitted he needed to be better able to deal with his personal affairs, so it does not affect his ability to add some value to the United Democratic Party and to the country.
We talk about leadership in the UDP, and we always say that we need a very strong opposition. You have to hold the leading government accountable. In reality, there's only been a few of you in the House so far, right? And when
there's five.
There's five. Well, I don't want to.
There's five. That's the reality. There's five. Yes.
And so when you're in the House and you're making certain opposition statements and so forth, when you're given your mandates, when you are given certain policies, when you're provided with all of these rules and so on, how do you think you can come together right now the way you are to be a strong opposition in the House? Sometimes there is a debate and a contradicting argument within your own opposing party. So how can we better that? How can we get to a stability in the UDP?
So while there are five of us that sit in the National Assembly, there is a shadow cabinet that helps to inform the position of the party on various matters. There is also a parliamentarian caucus that meets prior to a House meeting so that we can have consensus again on what the policy position is moving forward. When those systems work, then we're able to be on the same page. When those systems don't work, then there may be conflicting opinions on a particular bill or policy, but we have the opportunity to debate those issues and put those issues before the Belizean people. And I think that's really the most important process, is to be able to ventilate to the Belizean people how we see those policies affecting the quality of life.
Numerically though, you're looking at an opposition that has 5 and a party in power that has 26, right? Of the 5 on the opposition bench, and again, this is just being straightforward and real about it.
Please.
Of the 5 on the opposition bench, we've never heard anything from Denise Barrow.
Indeed.
None at all.
Indeed.
As a matter of fact, her absence is looked forward to, in a manner of speaking, because she won't be there. So that's the other thing. When there is a matter that is being tabled, we can either count on you, Patrick Faber, or the leader of the opposition to give the opposition's position on a matter. Because not even Hugo Pat is present or stands up to debate an issue. So it's essentially the 3 of you guys against the party in power. And I'm saying that that gives in and of itself a certain impression to the public, right? I can't speak for what the reasons are why Sister B doesn't attend or participate. I can't speak to that. And I can't speak to Hugo Pat's absences as well. I understand that for a while, Patrick Farber sat it out because he was dealing with his own personal issues. That is to be understood. But he's back. But it's still only the three of you guys. And I'm saying all of this in the context of what will take place next week with the budget presentation and, of course, the subsequent debate. And if we're looking now at 3 days of debating the budget as opposed to the previous 2, then I, as a Belizean, would want to hear from everybody, all 31 of the area representatives. Now the question is, am I going to get that? I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, it's only yourself, Patrick, and Shine that are essentially batting in Parliament at the House of Representatives level for the UDP.
So when you look at the numbers in the House of Representatives, the opposition will have a say, but the government will have its way.
Yeah.
We are far outnumbered in terms of the, and even the practice of, you know, there's no dissenting view from the government on a policy that is being presented by the government. I can speak for myself. I believe representation is important. The people of Albert elected me to be their voice in the National Assembly, and I take that responsibility seriously. I don't shy away from that. My colleagues, I believe, should go to the House meeting. I think Sister B should be attending. I think Hugo should be attending. But they have to hold themselves to account on why they're not attending or why they don't contribute to the debate. I will contribute to the debate. The budget will pass, but I think that being present, being able to express your views on how monies should be allocated, what are some of the areas of priorities we see are important in terms of the national development agenda, it is still important for people to hear our voices and to hear our views.
And I'm glad Isani brought it up, because I was talking about contradicting views within your own party, and that was clearly seen when the president of Cuba was here. And so with yourself and Patrick Farber and Hugo Pat that attended the special seating of the House, and of course party leader Mr. Barrow outright refused. He's against the entire process. So when those things happen, how do you assure the public that the opposition is coming together and becoming stable?
Those things happen when we do not sit down to have consensus on a policy issue that affects not only the party but the country.
Yes.
The party leader had a view on the matter.
An individual view.
An individual view. It was not the view of the party. He decided to uphold his view as strongly as he did. And there are those of us in the party who felt, considering all that Cuba has done for Belize, the kind of support it has given to both governments, the kind of support it has given hundreds of Belizean students in education, the kind of support Cuba has given us in health and in culture and in arts. There's no way, in my view, we could have deliberately or boycott such an important visit by the president of Cuba to Belize. I was certainly not prepared to do that. While we hope to have consensus on all issues, when we don't have consensus on all issues, you have to speak your truth, and you have to speak your truth to power.
That said, moving forward, how can we be assured that that you will have consensus throughout
the party leader has made a commitment to our caucus and to the delegates of the National Party Council that there will be proper consultation moving forward, so that there would be no unilateral positions taken, that the party's position would prevail, that the collective wisdom again will prevail, so that we can be sure that we are speaking in one voice and from the same hymn sheet, if you will.
Do you think that that is the route that will be taken by the leadership and by the remaining of the United Party at this time when it comes to Patrick Faber and his return?
There is a National Party Council meeting that is scheduled for April 1st, in fact. It is at that meeting that I am hoping that the discussion can come up, and a resolution be made in terms of Patrick's candidacy and direct involvement in the re-election, in election coming up in 2025, in regaining his seat in the College Division, that we can go back to what the constitution of the party dictates, and that he will be afforded due process.
Let's segue now into women in leadership and the fact that you are one of very few women in Parliament. At the House level and at the Senate level, there are very few women who are actually doing parliamentary work on part of the country. Your story is familiar to many of us in terms of what inspired you to get involved in electoral politics, your ambitions, and the fact that you've offered yourself as a leader for the United Democratic Party, notwithstanding the outcome of the last leadership convention. So your mettle has been tested. We already know where you're coming from and what you're capable of doing and what have you. Do you see yourself in the next leadership convention offering yourself once again?
Certainly. Certainly. I am not sitting on my aspirations to lead the United Democratic Party or to be a leader of this country. I think it is important for women to seek greater leadership roles. Our voices are important. Come on, we hold up high this half of the sky, right? 51% of our population are women. We are capable of doing the job. I certainly have a desire to do the job, and I have no fear in offering up myself as a candidate for the job.
What holds us back as women? And I know that we're talking about women in leadership, and there are many women in leadership, but there are not many women in governing leadership. What
political leadership? Certainly, there are barriers, right? We have cultural barriers, for example. We're still a very patriarchal society. You know, we see our men as most fit to be political leaders. We have institutional barriers. You know, in the United Democratic Party, we have 31 representatives, 5 of whom are women, and the other 26 are men. There's still the boys' club. And of course, there's financial barriers. Women are not able to attract the same kind of support, funding support, for campaigns. I can tell you, you know, that's where has been my steepest learning curve, is how we do that in a way that can hold scrutiny and get the same kind of results that our male counterparts get. So it's not an easy environment to navigate at all for women. There are definitely too few of us, and I hope that in the future we can continue to encourage and mentor and support other women to seek political office. You know, women are also, you know, we are the nurturers. We take care of our families, we take care of our communities. Women wear so many hats, and political leadership, the whole environment can be very toxic at times. You know, you're attacked, your family is attacked. That's not hard for women to bear. But women have a lot to contribute to this country, and we need more women to be involved.
When we're talking about career choices, though, you seldomly see a young girl in political science. You seldomly see a girl in wanting to be a government official. Of course, you have CEOs and so forth, and again, many women in leadership, but politics, not really my choice. So how do you make that subject or that field enticing for girls to want to be a part of it?
I think they have to see them. See people like myself, Senator Williams, Honorable Dolores Valderramos Garcia, we have the Honorable Elvis Samos, will conduct ourselves in such a way with the kind of decorum and the kind of skill that young women can see us and say, you know what, I can do that. Yeah. You know, we don't have enough role models for young women, and those of us who are given quite the privilege to serve in such a capacity really ought to take time to pay it forward, to spend time mentoring our young women and lending our support to those women candidates that do put themselves forward.
It's interesting that you would use the word decorum in the context in which you did, considering the fact that many of us on the outside, when we look at what takes place in the Honorable House, it's everything for the most part but decorum, right? And it's sad because a lot of the banter and what would seem to be the disrespect comes from the men in the house, right? Absolutely. And women see that, young girls see that.
You don't want to be a part of it.
They wouldn't. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of any young lady, right? But from the point of view of a man who stands on certain moral principles, it's not something that I would aspire to get in there and berate my colleague on the other side or what have you. So I'm assuming that it wouldn't bode well for any woman or any young lady who has an interest, a remote interest in Parliament.
There's no perfect world, there's no perfect science. If women want their voices to be heard, if women want to shape the policies that affect their reproductive health or how we address gender-based violence in our society, issues that directly impact ourselves and our families, then we must get involved. And we must, you know, we have to learn, and in context, it's not always easy for women to navigate being in leadership positions. I am sure being the Honorable Speaker of the House is not easy. I am sure being the President of the Senate is not easy. But until we are prepared to do it, our voices will remain muted. And we can't afford that. I was speaking to a colleague of mine in Jamaica who says women in politics or in political leadership is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Women, we have more women going to university, seeking tertiary education. Eventually, there will be the opportunity for women to take on a greater role. And we have to stick with it. We need to keep moving forward and keep being the example we want other young women to follow.
I think that one of the things that Belizeans are not really aware of is that for the most part Belize, our country, is a very liberal society. We don't have policies that tell my uterus what to do, you know, thank goodness. But as we continue to strengthen our girls, and just going into the month of March, we look at people like President of New Zealand, Jacinta, who's a young woman president, and she still has to fight her battles in her own parliament. What would you say to young girls who want to be like you, who use you as a role model, but at the same time don't want the bantering of that parliament?
You have to, I keep saying this, but it's absolutely true, have an unshakable, unwavering belief in yourself. I don't care how good your intentions are, when you get in an arena as diverse and as dynamic as politics, you can be pulled in many directions. So you have to be clear why you want to get involved in the first place. What motivates you? What are your values? What are the principles you want to stand up for? And stick to it. Sometimes you're the only person standing on that issue, but it's okay. As they say, your tribe will find you eventually. You have to be true to yourself and really develop a support system of other women, and of course also in your private life, your family, that will continue to support you through that process. Because yes, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. I am here, and there are other women who have stood the test of being in that environment and will continue to do so.
Do you think it's worth it?
Absolutely, it's worth it. This country needs our voices. There is no not having women in the political arena. That would be totally
We just need more.
Unacceptable. We just need more.
I feel like if we had more women, there wouldn't be all that bantering. Not just my 2 cents.
But it goes beyond the banter. It's also about getting things done. I mean, being in the House of Representatives and having the discussions and the debate and what have you is good, right? It allows us to be able to understand the views of our politicians or our representatives when it comes to national matters. But at the end of the day, it's the work that we're most concerned about. You can't just go in there and debate and argue if you're not doing things on the ground.
You know, we are in the process now of establishing a formal standing committee of the House, the Women Parliamentarian Caucus of Belize, which will be a bipartisan, bicameral House committee that will look specifically at how we advance issues and find some collaboration and coordination on issues affecting our women and our families and other key policies that affect us as Belizeans. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
Can we argue nonetheless that this is long overdue?
Long overdue, of course it's long overdue. The time is now, and the work is getting done, and hopefully we can start showing that the voices of women are helping to shape or helping to influence how policies are designed and implemented.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, and you're talking about more women are in tertiary level education and so forth. So what is it that we need for our women, most importantly in this country? We're going into Women's Month and we're talking about things like embracing equity and so forth, but what is it that we need for our women right now?
Respect for the fact that women bring something different to the table. Respect is a fundamental issue that I see. You know, I've had to correct the Prime Minister in the House to say, you're not allowed to be a bully in here, sir. You know, certainly gender equity is a big issue affecting us. Having a clear gender policy that supports women in all facets of life is important, so that, you know, we talk about gender equality, but it's not always going to be a level playing field, but that women are not locked out of important and key decisions that affect life for all Belizeans.
When we're talking about women in leadership and women in politics, and I think that sometimes it becomes a discouraging factor. When you stand your ground, you make certain decisions, you have your arguments, you make a well-rounded debate as to why your decision is the best one. And then the men go to their other boys' club, and then those decisions are not being followed. How am I supposed to keep going and be motivated when those things happen?
Because you know you're working towards the greatest good, helping this country to reach its highest potential. There are points when we get discouraged in all sectors, in all professions. Yeah. That doesn't stop you. It should actually, for me, it motivates me to push harder, to find ways in which I can forge alliances with my male colleagues, to be able to sit down with them and explain to them why our point of view is the point of view we have. And many times we are on the same page in terms of how we see policies affecting our wider community, the greater community. But in areas where there is differences, there's room for collaboration. We need both men and women for Belize to reach her highest potential.
Can you name a time where there was bias within your particular surroundings and environment, that it was not because your policy wasn't good or not because your decision wasn't good, but just because you're a woman and I don't want to hear her opinion?
I've had a few of those experiences. It's part of the course, and you really have to push forward. Like I said before, you have to stand your ground. Keep promoting what you believe in. Keep providing the evidence of why you believe your input is of valid and should be valid, and keep having the conversation. It's not an overnight process. Look, in the great United States, it's not an overnight process. So we need to just keep working at it.
Glad you mentioned the U.S. because that is also that a whole different conversation. But future goals, future hopes for your party, and what you hope for women in leadership.
Well, certainly, it is my hope that the United Democratic Party will be able to unite and be able to be a viable alternative for the next government in 2025. We're working towards that goal. Political parties seek to win and to garner the support of the people, to garner the trust and confidence of the people. So that's certainly my hope for the United Democratic Party, that we can be victorious in the next general elections and take over the governance of the country. In terms of women and young girls, that we continue to seek greater leadership roles in all facets of our society, whether it's, whichever sector of the economy, that we understand that there are no limits, that we should not allow anyone to say that we cannot achieve what we know that we can, and that we will find ways to provide greater support for each other as we venture into territory such as political life, and other sectors that may not be as open to women.
Are there any plans for Women's Month on your part?
For Women's Month, there is a national agenda that is put together by the Women's Commission. Certainly, I try as best as I can to support many of those initiatives because we need to come together and stop creating silos of activities and really try to move forward with one voice.
The Honorable Tracy Panton, Area Rep for the Albert Division, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
We'll hope you'll be back soon before the general, maybe to announce your run for leadership as the party.
That's possible.
But thank you so much for coming in. And with that, we're going to take another break. Stay with us. We'll be back with the NGO Senator Janelle Chanona to talk about the Escazú Agreement. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere. satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Benefit are we, the people, supposed to pay?
Got something you pay now, but when you get old, you got something for college, for your future.
If you miss some days from work, they should have compensated for that.
As an artist, I'm not really sure because I work for myself.
What is Social Security? Social Security is not a tax. Social Security is a very small investment in you, the worker. It's an investment that you can count on now or in the future. It is designed to replace part of your income from wages when you get sick, get injured on the job, have a baby on the way, become disabled, or even when you pass away. And even then, the widow and your kids, if under 16 years or under 21 years and in school, obtain survivor's pension. And after a lifetime of working, you can rest assured you will have a monthly retirement income. Social Security, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Environmentally degradable plastics, or EDP, are plastics that are affected by a combination of environmental conditions that cause the plastic to break down within an acceptable time frame. They are specifically designed to degrade into carbon dioxide, water, and other biomass substances. The level of breakdown can vary based on standard test methods appropriate to the plastic. Click on the link below to see what you can do to help end the nightmare of single-use plastics. I'm Alison Castillo, and now you know.
There are 3 categories to choose from: budget, economy, Island Lux. Try our services today and earn loyalty points on each ride to get cashback deals on your next ride, or sign up to be a Madriva driver. Just be sure to have your police record on hand. Transportation services at your fingertips. Download the app today. Madriva, opening doors to new opportunities.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5 Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. honor in life and reverence in death.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time, and so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
We are back. Joining us for our second segment this morning is NGO Senator Janelle Chanona. We've been talking about the Escazú Agreement, not just the Escazú Agreement, but just different policies that shape our environment here. We just had the degraded lands meeting a couple of weeks ago. And so now we are back again talking about environment policies, particularly the Escazú Agreement. Why is this? First, what is this agreement, and why is Belize clamoring to get its footing on the ground with it?
So good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to your viewers. And I have to say, the chairman of the Joint Public Accounts Committee just reminded me that our meeting starts at 9:30.
Okay.
So
we'll have you there in time. We'll have you there in time.
If you see me running for the door, that I don't want to get into trouble with her. But thank you for talking about this, because I think it is important for people to know that beyond going to these international fora and these faraway places and signing these conventions and treaties, that the follow-up commitment is national implementation. Yeah. And it is follow through. So I know in different areas of work, there are several treaties related to this. You all may be old enough to remember when, the right to life and looking at our policy on killing prisoners who are on death row and that sort of thing. So this is a history. So I think in two folds, it's Belize following through it on its commitment, but also fundamentally, it's Belize following through on its belief that we have the human right to the environment, and to a clean environment, and to an environment conducive to our well-being, to our food security, to our way of life, to everything that we know that it contributes. And this Escazú Agreement was really born from that agitation from both civil society and government actors globally. I think it is important to note that one of the core pillars for this agreement is really looking at protecting people who defend nature. You will also know that I think last year there were 222 people who defended nature who were killed. Guess how many of those were from our part of the world? 148. Wow. So when you look regionally at what we're confronting, then you will begin to appreciate why it's so important for us. And you may say, knock on wood, this hasn't happened in Belize, or we don't have that. We cannot reasonably say it will never happen. Yeah. And we have to put things in place to make sure that our rangers and everybody working in the field towards it, towards its maintenance and its integrity, feel protected and are protected. So that's core. Some of the other pillars are looking at just access to information. Yeah. I was just telling somebody earlier, we get text messages, there's a planned outage, there's a double up, there's can we look at how we're making sure people have access and that they can be guided to it so that they can make informed decisions. It's not telling people how to think, but it's access to the information. and participation.
Yeah.
There's a public meeting, and this is how your contribution is going to be weighted, how it's going to carry forward in the decision making. This is how you can take this matter to the court if you don't feel that you've had that appropriately followed up on.
Yeah.
So it's really about engagement. It's really important, I think, for us to look at governance as comprehensive and collective, that it's all of us participating because all of us will be impacted, as opposed to saying, oh, well, that's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're waking up and, there's smoke from some big truck next door coming into your house, and the drain is a mess because of whatever, or your neighborhood is being flooded out because some forest fire degraded the entire river bank, and now everything's collapsing into the river, and that's compounding everything else. And I think, April, you mentioned that forest fires, it's really that, there are no standalone events anymore.
Yeah.
Everything has a ripple effect, and everything is affected, and we have to see ourselves as a part of that.
Yeah.
We're connected to what happens to our natural world.
13 countries signed off on this Escazú Agreement. Belize has signed as well.
Yes.
So
and it was ratified.
And it was ratified.
It was gazetted.
So what is the national NGO bodies asking for of Belize now?
So I think we're just eager to get started on the collaboration. You should know that there has been a lot happening already for many years. There's been an Escazú Point coordinator. There's been folks at the ministry working on this. So, and we have the Freedom of Information Act, which is one of the reference points to transparency and accountability. So it's just looking at what we have and beginning to identify, other mechanisms that we can put in place so that, again, it's a sense that it's been meaningfully implemented, and making sure that we're working collaboratively with the government to say, okay, well, this is how Escazú is following up on.
The Escazú Agreement should give us the right to information, and for us to know, and for us to question and to ask and to hold our government accountable for certain policies. Can you give us a really good example of how this agreement could be used for our personal advantage?
I think it really will come down to how we want it as the Belizeans, because I think there are issues across the region that are very specific to the region. But one of the things that comes to mind immediately is the situation at the New River. Insofar as we know the river is being polluted, we know we're being affected, but for whatever reason, I don't think it's been absolutely clear why we're continuing to deal with this, and why we're dreading if there's a severe drought or another fish kill, or another scenario where kids can't be in school because of the smell. Can you imagine? I mean, so I think that's where I think it would be helpful for us as, and I bring that up because there was immediately a Friends of the New River organization, and that had government, that had business, that had private sector, that had community. So it's everybody galvanizing and saying, this is our river, this is our home. How do we fix this? Because nobody wants to have to deal with the situation. But again, there have been some efforts at that, but we need to follow through on that and make sure that's really dealt with, and it's not going to flare up on us again. So it's really about, I think, making sure that those types of situations that you do feel like, we did something, something changed, and now it's for the better. And I think that's a key takeaway for me, where it's like, we can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. And if it takes something like Escazú to help us identify and implement another mechanism to get to it, and it also made me think as a reference of things like UNCAC and things like other conventions where we felt like, we have the local laws, but how do we help localize a global effort to make sure that we're making change where we need it to be seen and felt?
I think that's the greatest challenge, though, because enacting laws and signing on to conventions is one thing. That happens at the political level, if I could use that description.
Partisan,
yeah. But getting things done on the ground is another thing. We saw that with UNCAC, as you rightly mentioned. There was all this flurry about signing on to the convention, And then when it came time to implement the specific points, everybody sit down on their hand, right? If we look at what took place again with the New River, in the height of the moment, everybody came together to figure out how we could solve this, because it's bad for business, it's bad for the environment, the kids can't go to school, etc. That has passed. You don't hear anything about it again. It's not to say that it won't rear its ugly head again somewhere down the road. It's just that it would seem as if, though, for the most part, our society has been reactionary to certain things more than we are proactive in terms of either keeping it alive or following through with it. So now my question is, how do we not afford the same thing to happen with the Escazú Agreement? How do we keep that fire burning to carry on?
I love that you said we, because that's who it will take. It will take all of us to make sure those stories don't fall off the back burner and that these treaties and conventions don't become more paper on the shelf. It's really going to be as strong as we make it. And that's why I emphasize collaboration, cooperation, communication. Because while Escazú might be this regional initiative and this UN thing and that it's great, it will be the Belize implementation that will really determine how meaningful it is, how successful the implementation is, and how great the magnitude, the impact is of what comes out on the other side. So it's really going to be up to us to say, okay, I have one more way to get access, I have one more way to participate. But that's where the collective responsibility of, I can't wait for Oceana, I can't wait for Isani, you know, April not said nothing, so where do you go on there? It's about internalizing and saying, oh, but I have this mechanism that I can use. I have this right. I have this means. I can get this support. And really trying to get people to embrace that role, because that's really what it is. And I do not for 1 minute underestimate the victimization or the sense of helplessness that I am one person. Sometimes that's all it takes. And sometimes even if you're the only one in the room saying it, keep saying it. Have the courage to do that. Because if you keep pushing on it, you know, that's where the change comes out. Because there are bad actors who are counting on things to fall off the stove, who are counting on things to go away. But as we keep saying, several of these bad decisions keep coming back to haunt us. And that's really the reality, that you would love to think that, you know, things go away and
they stay away.
And, you know, things grow over it and then it's good. No, there's always, as you said earlier, there's always this interconnectedness, and we're going to pay the price in some way.
It's interesting that April mentioned the Freedom of Information Act in the context of all of this earlier. So while it exists, I think it's the greatest challenge to be able to invoke and to be able to access information using this particular piece of law. It has happened in the past with other issues where the media has sought to access information. The layman has also attempted to access certain information to be able to present concerns and what have you, and the bureaucracy and all the obstacles placed in one's way, even though there is, even though there is a FOIA, you don't really go far with that.
Well, and that's it. But reasonably, they can't tell you, well, you didn't try that first. And I can tell you right now, we're in the middle of a FOIA request right now related to an activity offshore Belize City. And, you know, it is really that you're giving them time, but you're prepared that if I need to go to the court, if I need to do something, I'm prepared to do that. Now, I will tell you right off, you know, I know that we're not in the same position as others, but one of the things I always go back to, there are specific means of support. BELPO created the guide to participation. And that had even template letters, so that all you had to do was insert your issue or insert your request. You know, they had the addresses for the ministry directive, because I think sometimes that's what we need. We're so caught up in sort of the situation and being impacted by it, and we feel overwhelmed. Like, where do I go to? Please reach out to your neighborhood groups, your conservation groups, your civil society members. They have resources that can help you. you, they have incentive to help you, and they have ganas to help you. We want people to be, because, and being honest, you know, all too often we get dismissed. Conservation and economy read about something else again, and now one the ball about something, next man at it there, the river dot. It's always going to be, some people are going to be, you know, they want to read, it's never enough. And I think what you're calling out is, you're also telling us what we're doing is not enough. So as much as other people are telling us, you know, we can never please you, there are others saying you need to do even more. So how do we make sure that it's everybody? It's not just a pocket of people saying, you know, bringing things to life, and I wonder what so-and-so doing, I wonder what Isani said about this now. And no, what are we going to do about it? Because Isani works at Channel 5, you live in Bemopan, but when you go home, things that are happening in your neighborhood affect you. And if you don't get a good night's sleep, you come miserable and give Stephen a hard time, you know? So there are things, and I bring that up because sometimes we don't even associate, you know, something as basic as maybe noise pollution affecting productivity and the economy. If you wake up in a upsetting way, and then you have to go to work, and you know you have a bad day all day, what does that do for your productivity? And how is it that we can make sure that Jake breaks people realize that, you know, your failure to slow down well in advance is affecting, you know, a population of people here, and therefore affecting our productivity over here. Again, different ecosystems, different ways that we're connecting, where we don't realize it because we feel like we have to tolerate it and we have to accept it, and nobody could do anything about it, and they can't stop it. But we can't figure out, there can be a balance struck.
The way that Belize has, you know, settled bigger issues, have been through various parts of referenda. How does this agreement stand out from that type of policy and decision making?
So this agreement is the only legally binding agreement that came out of the Conference of Parties on Sustainable Development. So that is to tell you that the connection between human right and environment is legally binding. It's not just a principle, it's not just a propaganda. It's that you have a legal right to clean air, fresh water, access to information about decisions. You have a legal right to seek recourse or redress in the courts. You have a legal right to give your opinion. You have these, and you have a right to feel like if I give my opinion, or if I'm doing my job, I won't be killed for it. I won't be hurt for it. I won't be penalized for it. I won't be victimized for it. And that's what we need to create. That is the environment Escazú, in principle, and why all of these countries are signing on to it, is trying to create. How do we create an environment conducive to everybody putting in their positions and being weighted so that we come out with the best possible? It's not going to be consensus all the time. It's not going to be agreement across the board, but it's figuring out together how do we make the most informed decisions moving forward, because that's best outcome for everybody.
But how do you get people to care? And I asked that question because you rightfully said it, we all lead our own separate lives and our realities are very much different from one another. So why should I care if there's a forest fire right now when I really just need to make sure I get my 8 to 5, pay my rent, do my thing? That at least are my problems.
Or if you think that the forest fire is far away and doesn't affect you here in the city.
Right. So how do you get people to care about these things?
One, I think it's ease of access, because like I said, everybody has a phone, everybody's on Facebook, everybody has
some social media,
some means of being engaged very quickly. So that's one. You get people to care by letting them know what's happening. You're presupposing that people aren't caring about the forest fire, but how many people actually know that there's a forest fire, that it's claiming this, that it's impacting this, that the smoke plume is blowing in a northeasterly direction, so that they can prepare. That is the importance and the value of the media, and you show that once people see your story, that they can take the action that you want them to take, or that people want them to take. A fire victim will get a call. I saw your story. I'm trying to help. That is the correlation there. I think it's also getting them to care by giving them a way to participate that's not intrusive to their 9 to 5 or their 8 to 5, because everybody knows I have to provide for my family. I have to get my kids to school. But that does not erode or degrade your right to participate in the process. So even we talk all the time about timing for these consultations. They're held at a school night, or they're held in a location that's far away, or you know, how do we make sure the hybrid system works? I have no doubt we are a creative enough people to come up with ways where no matter how busy you are, while Isan is feeding his dogs, he can have his headset on and he can be talking and multitasking and figuring out, this is my position on this neighborhood project that's just been proposed, and I feel like we need to factor in X, Y, and Z. So that is, I think, the core, the two core. You let them know what's going on, and you let them know how you can participate. But the third is also that it's not just that I showed up and I said this, and then you still go off and you do what you want. It's that we are putting things in place so that there's follow through, there's follow up, there's monitoring, there's compliance, there's making sure that something actually changed. Because you know what? You show up to 1-2 workshops or press conferences on the same issue, and it's like saying the same thing. How do we get out of this fatigue of there's a plan to have a plan to have a plan? No. People want to know that when, you know, that we're planning to act and that we act. And that's the part. Plan, act, and you actually act, and then we make sure that what we act, the action was follow the plan, and that created the outcome that we did. And if we didn't, guess what? Then we change the action, because we can't do the same thing and expect a different result. So it is a constant. It is, you know, work. I don't want to minimize that. It's work, and it's a relationship, and anybody in a relationship knows
you have to get it done.
You have to work at it. No matter how busy you are, you have to let your partner know that you love them, and let your kids know that you love them, and not just tell them, but make them feel it. So it's how do we figure out what works for us, so that our environment knows that we respect what it's doing, we feel like we're respected, and our role and our right to make a living is factored into everything, and that we're moving forward together.
So now that Costa Rica has officially left and shelved the Escazú Agreement, and now the NGOs are saying this is Belize's chance for regional leadership. So what is the potential that Belize has, and why should other countries rally behind us?
So I think, I mean, Costa Rica from the onset was a big part of the push, but they never signed, you know, they never did even what Belize did before. Now that Belize has gone even further and ratified. I was even reading some of the Costa Rican officials telling everybody else, all the other 13, you know, maybe you guys should think about renaming this. You know, if that's what it takes for it not to, for Costa Rica not to feel like crowded and you know, the cheese in the middle of the room, then maybe that's even something that Belize can look at. How do we get together with the others and figuring out, you know, how does San Pedro Agreement sound, or you know, how do we embrace this? But
what difference would renaming it make, though? I mean,
well, clearly,
the actions are still the actions at the end of the day.
And I was being making light of it, but it's really about that you don't want Escazú, being a Costa Rican city, to cloud the fact that Costa Rica isn't there. And that's why I was saying, like, you don't want Costa Rica maybe to feel crowded if they're like, okay, we need a minute. Everybody has boundaries, no problem. You take the time you need to figure out where you want to go and what you want to do next. But so that there's no confusion that what Costa Rica is doing affects what everybody else is doing and why they're doing what they're doing. If renaming it takes that away and clarifies that, then so be it. But the rose by any other name is still the rose, and the agreement is still what we have to do to make sure that this is meaningfully implemented.
We want it to be meaningfully implemented, Senator, but at the end of the day, how do we as a culture not be complacent?
I think, you know, one of the things people say, oh, you know, these things always take money, and it will take time, and, you know, resources, and we don't have none of that. And I always come back to the cost-benefit analysis. What is it costing us if we're not doing it? Blue Economy Minister for Barbados told me once, he said, when you plan but you don't act, that's a dream. But when you act and you plan and you don't have a plan, that's a nightmare. So we need to realize that the world keeps going. Things are going to do. Things are moving. Whether you know about them or not, things are happening. Things are getting approved. Things are falling apart. Things are changing. Things are blowing up. Things are burning. How do we make sure we have, and I don't want to say ease of access lightly, but how do we make sure that we have user-friendly ways that even the busiest Belizean can still know what's happening very quickly with our environment, with our economy, other things, the same speed of light that, a good rumor on Facebook will have. How do we apply the things that we know we can do, which is let everybody know what's happening with these types of issues, because these are the issues that are going to impact all of us. If there is a forest fire big enough to put soot over half of the country, that's half of the people we know. That's our relatives. That's our businesses. That's our consumer base. That's our employees coming from Cayo to Belize City to work. And how are they going to be impacted? So I think it's really, April, about making sure that people internalize not just their role, but that there are things that I can even suggest, I can bring to the table to say, well, I'm not going to wait for Isani to tell me how he's going to reach me. I could tell Isani, you know what, boss? Between 6 and 8, you WhatsApp me, I want to answer. I'm not telling you what I'm going to do when I'm going to answer you, but I will have my phone in my hand and I will be available to you. So it is, and that's a collaboration. It's not somebody coming up with a mechanism and you saying, this not a work, and that's stupid, and why didn't do it that way, and da-da-da. It's me saying, here is the best way that I think for my community we can communicate with each other. I can know what's being proposed from my village. I know what's happening in my town. My taxes are going to change in the city. Here's how I want to participate. Whatever it is. I have a communications background, but I know as Belizeans, everybody know how to communicate. We just do it differently. Some people are non-verbal. Some people are very animated. Some people are verbose. So how do we figure out different mechanisms and give everybody, so that at the very least, those of us who are trying can say, well, we gave you every opportunity and then some to show up. You can't show up at the 11th hour and say, I never noticed it happen. Well, if you're down a rock or unrealistic expectations, it's because, we have to make, and some of these decisions, unfortunately, I mean, it is 11th hour. I mean, we're at that crossroads, and depending on where we pick, might have very different outcomes nationally for all of us. So these are things that we need to get involved with and on board now. And if this is one of the ways that we make sure that gets highlighted, factored in, and causes people to, let me go find out where we really go on here, then so be it, because the more the merrier at the table.
They're telling me that I have to let you go to your meeting.
Yes. Thank you
Senator,
so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
And the conversation continues.
Yes, best of luck. And please, if there's any kind of announcement, make sure you announce it here. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to take our final break. We'll be back for wrap-up. Stay tuned.
With eCash, bill payment is extremely convenient, and all utility companies accept eCash payments. What's even better? You get to split bills with your roommates, siblings, or whoever you desire. Simply open your eCash app, go to Bill Pay, tap the respective utility company, enter the information, and pay the bill. Then tap the transaction made. Tap Split the bill. Select Evenly. Send the request to who you are splitting the bill with, and get notified when they pay. Talk about making life easy and avoiding confusion. You can split the bill for restaurants, grocery stores, and for any eCash payment you make. To find your next yummy meal, hair treatment, or chill spot, simply open the app and utilize the geolocation service to see nearby businesses that accept eCash. Geolocation and bill payment make life a whole lot easier.
introduces Real Unlimited Postpaid Plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart.
WestTrack Limited is committed to working hard every day to ensure you get the right products at the most affordable price. We strive to have the greatest selection of quality, affordable, and timely products and services that will enhance your personal or corporate lives. With an extensive line of products, we'll be sure to have what you need. For even faster service, you can contact us on Facebook, WhatsApp, or by email. We look forward to seeing you come through our doors at your nearest WestTrack branch today.
Do you have information about a crime or a fugitive in our community? You can submit a tip anonymously with your smartphone. Using this program in safeguarding our community also protects your identity, keeping you out of the court system, and could earn you a cash reward. Here is how it works. Download the free P3 Tips app from the Apple Store or Android Market. P3 is the provider of our secure anonymous tip collecting software. Open the app and create a PIN, but be sure to remember that number, then select your location. Next, select the type of crime. When submitting a tip, be as specific as possible. If you have a picture, video, or audio that will help officers, you can upload them from your phone. Information leading to an arrest can earn you a cash reward of up to $1,000. Once your tip is submitted, you'll be given a tip ID and password. Check back if your tip leads to an arrest. You'll be told how much you were rewarded and how to anonymously collect your cash.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Special offer alert! Trade in your old device and active SIM and get a Samsung A04e for as low as $85, plus 50% off your Share 1 plan for the first 3 months. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. Now that's love. So this month, get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Messi! Off goal! What a goal from Leo Messi! What an incredible strike from Leo Messi! Neymar and Messi is standing over this. Messi. Off goal! What a goal from Leo
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
And welcome back. Welcome back as we wrap up our Monday morning show, Isani. We had 2 wonderful conversations.
And 2 strong women in their own right. 2 strong women in their own
right. So we want to thank the Honorable Tracy Panton, heir of Albert, who came out to talk about the movement of the UDP, their hopes, their visions, and of course, women in political leadership. And of course, we want to say another huge thank you to NGO Senator Janelle Chanona for giving us a detailed assessment of the Escazú Agreement, why it's important that you understand all that the agreement entails, and of course how it benefits and affects you personally. So if you haven't gotten a chance to read up on it, it's online. All you have to do is Google Escazú Agreement Belize and it'll pop right up. But before we go, Isani, we have a birthday shout out. Yeah, I know, right? For the first time in a long time, we have a birthday shout out. And so we want to say a very special happy birthday to Elam Guerra. Happy birthday, Elam. It is his 12th birthday. From your family and your friends, we hope you have a wonderful day. And from all of us here at Channel 5, happy birthday to you, Elam. And I don't have a personal birthday shout out, but if you have a birthday shout out, of course, you can always drop us a line right here at oye@channel5belize.com. And you can catch our Facebook live stream at Open Your Eyes BZ and our highlights on Instagram at OYE Belize. And of course, you can do us a favor tomorrow and join us again when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Be sure to keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you again tomorrow, Belize. Have a great day. Have a blessed day. Bye.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.